Good afternoon and welcome to IAB There, our daily live stream in which we connect the digital advertising ecosystem. I'm Cheryl Goldstein, EVP Member Engagement and Development here at the IAB. Today's session, which is titled, What Does It Mean to Be a Black Woman in Advertising and Media, is brought to you by the IAB Inclusion Institute. We're going to be covering the lack of diversity in the advertising and media industries, the challenges facing Black women specifically in this industry, the effort to change that, and what it really means to be a Black woman in media and advertising. Joining me for this really important conversation, please welcome Jasmine Cogdell, Director of Marketing at Black Tag, Patrice Drew, VP of Global Partnerships at Matterkind, and Stephanie Lawrence, Client Partner CPG at Nextdoor. Welcome, ladies. Thank you for joining me today.
Cheryl.
Hello.
Hello. So when we had our pre-call, we agreed that it was really important to have just an open, honest conversation about this. So I know I'm asking you to go raw a little bit, but I think it's really important for people to know, what a day in the life, what it's been like for women specifically of color in this business. But before we get into that, why don't we just do quick intros, tell a little bit who you are, what you do, 2 seconds about the company you're with. Jasmine, let's start with you because this whole conversation actually started based on a conversation we had with Black Tag. So just tell a little bit about yourself and the company.
Hi. Well, so great to be here. Thanks again for having us. So my name is Jasmine Cogdell. I am Director of Marketing at Black Tag. Prior to joining the company, I worked at BBDO New York for 2 years and then Wieden & Kennedy New York for 6 years. So I've been in the ad space for a bit of time now, kind of climbed the ranks from an intern to almost Director of Marketing, kind of managing and overseeing multiple accounts at one time. Created by being in that space, I started creating a room for the people of color within my office to have a voice and just create some sense of community. And in doing that, I kind of realized what I wanted to do with my purpose. So I recently transitioned from Wieden & Kennedy to the new company, which actually is a Black-owned startup called Black Tag. And it's a global platform for content and creators. So it's an app, it's available to download, and we're basically working to revolutionize the way that we can consume Black content and the way it's distributed and created.
Awesome. We'll come back to later because I want everyone to hear how you started the company, the reason why the company started, because it relates to this topic today. Stephanie, tell us about yourself and Nextdoor.
Sure. Hi, I'm Stephanie Lawrence, and I have been in the digital space for about like 25 years. So I've been doing this quite a long time. I started off my career in digital pretty much on the agency side of the house, and then the last maybe 10 years switched over into sales. Currently, I've landed myself at Nextdoor, and I came here because of their purpose-based mission. So at Nextdoor, we believe that everyone should have a neighborhood that they can rely on. And we pretty much have kindness at the core. So that's pretty much how we think about how we do our business on a day-to-day. And I just loved all that about the company. So excited to be here. And I oversee CPG. So I'm bringing on all of your Proctors, your Unilevers onto the platform.
Fantastic. Patrice.
Hi, my name is I'm Patrice Drew. I'm a global client partner at Matterkind. We offer data-driven addressable marketing services to several clients under the IPG umbrella. I've been at this company for about 5 years now, but previously started on the publisher side. So began as a publisher's assistant and then really just worked my way through doing targeting and measurement strategy at companies like Hearst, the New York Times, and Meredith. So I'm happy to be with you all today.
Fantastic. So let's kick it off because this is a very hot topic right now. It's as companies really struggle to try and create more diverse and inclusive environments. And some of you have been in this business a long time, so I'd love to hear from you how it's changed. But let's start first, Jasmine. The whole essence and reason for the launch of Black Tag was really a group of folks who were people of color that were frustrated working in environments where they often found that they were the only person of color sitting at the table. And a lot of the pressure coming to you to advise the company on multicultural marketing or how to make your own culture more inclusive. So curious to know, like, the frustration from that leading to starting a company where it's really like your culture for people of color. How has that been different? How does it feel for you? Go ahead.
I would say a lot of everyone in the company comes with backgrounds, whether it's in tech, media, or filmmaking and directing. So we've all worked on the other side. And I think being in the space allowed me to see behind the doors of, we all know that these companies will spend millions of dollars targeting Black media. However, the creators aren't Black, the talent's not Black, the producers aren't Black, the writers aren't Black. The art director is not Black. The media person who bought it probably wasn't Black. I could go on. The list is very long of who's not Black. However, the subjects are Black. So I started to see the discrepancy between, a lot of times, clients will use a typical terminology of like, this, media is targeted to the multicultural audience. And I always ask the question, so what do you mean by that? And I get a pause like this, and the conversation, kind of goes into circles a little bit. So I just started really seeing the need for people like myself who are in these rooms and have these positions, and the lack of representation that exists, and the lack of diverse stories and the people bringing that to life within the space. I mean, there's only about 5% people of color, especially Black people, within the advertising and media industry as a whole. And that's 5%. And usually those roles are typically within not the most senior level positions. They're usually junior level or are more behind the scenes and not client facing. So we created Black Tag. It's essentially for us and by us, right? We started wanting to build a space where we can own the curation of our content, really put a focus on the subcultures of Blackness, not the monolithic stereotypes that mainstream portray. And we built the company in a way to be monetizable. So equity and ownership, making sure Black creative power can equal economic power, and building a platform that can essentially work to not only amplify, elevate, and support these Black creators, but as an audience, I also can receive content that speaks more to me and connect brands to these audiences in a more authentic way. So they're actually putting their money where their mouth is.
And Steph, let's go to you. You've been around for a long time. Just so you know, I've got you beat by a few years, so don't feel bad. There are people that have been in there even longer in the biz.
Yeah.
So how is it different today? Is it different today?
Yeah, I would definitely say it's different today, just for the simple fact that we're having these types of conversations. They were absolutely not happening 25, 20, 15, 10 years ago. So hats off. The fact that there are 2 more women on this panel with me that look like me is very different. I would say that I was 1000% the only. And I can make this joke about my girlfriend Yolanda, who was at an agency, who called me to say that there was another Black woman that started in media and her name was Stephanie. And I said, that is absolutely not okay. There needs to be another person. We will be confused for the end of our days. But I will say that I probably think that my experience was a little different. I think even just being older, I tended to keep my head down, did the work, wasn't very vocal. And probably if there was another Black person at work, I don't know if I'd be comfortable sitting with them alone at the table, because I don't want people to think that I'm just talking to Black people, or whatever white people think when they see a group of Black people sitting together. But I would say in this day and age, I'm more vocal. I'm a part of my next door ERG, which has, which I never would have done before. So I do feel like I'm embracing my Blackness as I get older, and I'm very excited about it.
So you feel more free to just be yourself versus being stereotyped or judged. And how did you get into
and wearing braids to work? I would never have worn braids to work.
And I wear braids all the time.
Never.
With the bandana, maybe.
All the time. And get all the questions too.
So I'm hearing one, you're feeling more free to just be yourself in every way, like letting your hair be the hair you want it to be, dress the way you want to be, hang out with who you want to hang out with without feeling like you're being watched all the time. How did you get into this business in the first place, Steph? Just curious, because I'd like to hear from all of you how you ended up in it. And is this a good industry for women of color? So Steph, I'll go to you, and then I also want to make sure we get Patrice.
Yeah, funnily enough, I just got into this business by connection. So I think because I do have a diverse set of friends, someone connected me with someone who just wanted to have a conversation with me. And it just seemed very interesting to me. So I sort of fell into this by jumping into City Search, if anyone remembers that company from a million years ago, and started out just, I'm sure you do, Cheryl, started out just doing that. And again, I think it was just someone believing in me, thinking that I had great energy, period, the end. So I kind of fell into it. There definitely was not a digital course available in college when we went. It was just sort of learn as you go.
And Patrice, tell us a little bit about your experience and how you got into advertising.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually sought it out. So I went to business school for undergrad. So getting into media was kind of like, stepchild, like everyone else was going into investment banking, accounting, being recruited by big firms. And I really was like, that's not for me. I'm interested in media. And so those were the type of jobs that I saw on our college sort of job board. And yeah, I kind of went my own way, contrary to what everyone else was doing. So it was really kind of both by intentional and sort of by happenstance that I landed where I did.
And do you think this is an industry that's welcoming and is a good career choice for women of color? Or the problem is we don't see a lot of people clamoring to get into this industry.
No.
So is there a mistrust? Is it because they don't see people that look like themselves? Like, where are we failing to even attract the talent? And then where are we failing to retain? Are we? I mean, you tell me, is this a place that you think is a comfortable work environment for women of color?
Yeah, I'm curious to hear what the other ladies think, but I know for me, I didn't know it was an option, right? So I think there's also like an education piece that's missing. I think maybe we come from families where it's like, you want to go after the sure thing. This is the type of jobs that are lucrative, and media just doesn't fall on that list often. And those companies were also not on my campus at NYU. Like they weren't there. So I think that piece is missing too. There's no one sort of nurturing that pipeline to Black students as far as media goes. At least that was my experience.
Yeah, I think I was,
Go ahead.
oh, so good. I was just gonna add, like, I think for me, it takes a very special type of person to thrive in this industry. And I say that to say, I've been on multiple accounts, multiple environments in different places, and you really need to be strong-willed. You need to be confident, and you kind of have to navigate yourself. No one's going to teach you how to be a good account director. No one is going to teach you how to be a good media director. No one's going to teach you the steps to go from A to B. It's not like you have a manual. I mean, you don't even need to major in advertising really to be in advertising, which just tells you right there that you're entering a world of a lot of stuff. And you need to be able to deal with people. It's a psychology thing mixed with a perseverance, dedication thing. It's very much a fast pace. Do you honestly have the balls to go into the room and say what you need to say? Type of, and if you don't, you will quickly either not progress and get frustrated and leave, or you will not be in the rooms that you need to be in. So that's a lot of things being said, but people who are in it know what I'm talking about.
So Jasmine, what I'm hearing, because look, I totally agree that I think you have to have a certain personality type. I always tell people, if you are risk adverse, if you don't like change, if you need certainty, this is not the industry for you. Like I actually thrive in uncertainty. I love not knowing what's next. I get bored if things become too predictable.
Right.
So for me, it's been a great career, but you
Right.
have to have a certain personality type. So I think that's number one. And number two, if you are in a minority and you're walking into a room where you feel like you are the only one, will you have the balls to stand up when you're looking around a room that doesn't look like you?
Right,
So
because
that,
they will not wait for you to speak. So if you don't grab the mic, no one's going around and saying, Jasmine, do you have a word? You need to go like this and dive in and say, here, present, actually, this is what this means. And then you force your voice and presence to be known. I mean, I left wide and everyone knowing my name because it wasn't a secret. I wasn't going to say something. And I got into it. Yeah, I mean, not even expecting it. It's like when I did speak, I had something to say, and I made it known that what I was going to say had something behind it that you needed to listen to. And I just, yes, yeah. But the only way you get that confidence, which I'm sure these women understand, is it really helps having people in your support system and knowing and knowledge, right? Knowledge equals power. So when you have more knowledge about where you stand in the company and what value you bring, I think that's what brought out my confidence. Because my first day of BBD, I was crying. But like, and then you graduate, you eventually move on and you build that confidence.
If you never cried, did you ever work in advertising? I think
no. You didn't.
That's like if you haven't been fired, you're not working hard enough. And if you haven't cried, you're not putting your whole self into it.
Yeah, right.
Steph, did you want to add something to that?
Well, I was only going to say, I think, again, being the child of immigrant parents, the goal is to be a lawyer or a doctor, period, the end.
Mm-hmm.
I think to this day, my mom still thinks I fix computers, so I'm an IT. So, I think it's just like I wanted to be a lawyer, or I thought I wanted to be a lawyer, but this was not the career that you would fall into. And I think to everyone else's point, again, I'm a little bit older, this just wasn't a thing. You did not get into this thing.
Yeah, it sounds like we have to do a better job of even just letting people know that there are careers to be had. Yeah. So that's part A, but part B, we also, stats show that even when we bring diversity in, people of color into the fold, they don't last. They get to a certain level and it's like, that's it, I'm out of here. So from your point of view, where are we losing people and why, and what do we need to do to change that? Any thoughts there? What's kept you in it? I'm sure there are times where you said,
I think the system needs to evolve, right? Advertising is very old. Yeah. It has very old traditions. It has very old hierarchy. It has very old school systems. And when you're, as a company, working to grow your diversity efforts, it means that you're getting people from diverse backgrounds. Not everyone goes to BCU Brand Center. As we mentioned, we don't have these courses, right? But we're talented and you want our point of view and culture and creativity and uniqueness because that is what, clients want. Mm-hmm. However, we then bring that uniqueness and creativity and different point of view and perspective into a place that isn't willing to be flexible to open those doors to allow that uniqueness to thrive, right? It's almost like you're bringing like a chameleon into a space that they can't change. It's just like you're just stuck in a box sometimes. And then that becomes frustrating. And also, the whole notion of pay as well, I do believe is a big issue. Equity in terms of compensation and in terms of fairness. And, a lot of people will stay in these senior positions that are white men. A lot of CDs and creatives and directors are older white men, then maybe white women. And then at the very bottom is a Black man. And then below that, Black woman. So, you're already, looking and working into that system too. So that has to change, in my opinion.
Yeah. It's like they want diversity. They want to check the box and say, see, we have a diverse team, but do they really allow you to bring a diverse perspective and then listen to what that diverse perspective is? Yeah. So I think there's a different step. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, dare I say that I don't necessarily believe that not all people are deliberately trying to keep people down. I almost think it's almost like an unconscious bias thing. So, you know, to Jasmine's point, almost every industry, period, the end, has a whole bunch of white men leading it. Like that has not changed. So even though things are diverse, yeah, we have a Black guy on the board and all this other kind of stuff, but it's all led by white men. I just don't think that, you know, we all go through unconscious bias training. I went to USC. If I see someone on the resume from USC, I'm actually going to have them up here already and like consider them over somebody else that went to NYU, let's say. So I like to err on giving people the shadow of the doubt, and probably why I'm still in this industry is that I have run up against wonderful, beautiful people, which keeps me here. I think I can probably count on one or two hands where I've been like, okay, this person's not for me, or I think that they have ill intent in them. But I think that's what keeps me here, is the creativity of it. The folks that tend to come into this are pretty liberal minded for the most part that I've interacted with, but I don't know.
Yeah, and I think to some extent, it's only recently become taboo to say you're looking for someone that's the right fit, right? Because that's also part of what kept a lot of the sameness and monotony, the homogeneous environment going. Like it wasn't really inclusive. You had people that didn't quite fit in, and for some reason, those people, you know, either didn't get promoted as fast or didn't get the opportunities to sort of be in the forefront of different projects. And so naturally you would say, is it me, right? And you would sort of be second guessing that, is it because of my race? Is it because I'm a woman? Because you didn't know what people meant when they said fit, right? And how that was sort of what the repercussions of that once you got hired were. So kind of to Stephanie's point, it may not be a conscious thing, but sort of that idea of looking for someone that fits you, which can mean a lot of things, probably kept a lot of people from advancing.
We don't have a ton of time up, and I want to touch on this. One thing that I've seen is like George Floyd situation happened. All of a sudden, it's like the whole world woke up and said, uh-oh, we better start doing more. But the knee-jerk reaction I witnessed observing all of this, really trying to be an ally in action, was that companies were leaning on the Black employees to solve the problem, right? So it was like, oh, quick, Stephanie, what do we do about this? And you know, I'm like, wait a minute, you can't turn to the people who are like the victim of the situation and ask them to solve it for themselves. So what's your experience been around that kind of behavior? If you've been asked to step in and play the voice of the Black community for your company, and what can allies do to help, you know, microaggressions or behavior like that, like help us know what we could do to make it a better environment? But go ahead, any stories around that?
I can share. So I'm the chair of my company's diversity peer group. And so, yeah, that was definitely something that was very real for me. So it's like you're going through personally this kind of inner turmoil, but then you have to go to work and set up safe space calls and make sure that you are servicing, you know, your colleagues and make sure that they feel okay. It was definitely a hard and difficult time. I think what we need more from allies is them just saying, listening and saying, how can I help? Offering to sort of help with that load, I think could go a long way. But yeah, it's really a natural thing that happens where people kind of come to you and you're kind of battling with like, I want this initiative to be something that we have. I believe there's value in creating this space and I want this to work. But do I want to take it on all the time? Do I want that to be my job? And I feel like that's kind of a thing that you have to labor over and sort of deliberate on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say so I also was the co-founder of the ERG. I feel we all were the ERG at Wyden too. And I will say I started Noir in like 3 years prior, like at least 2 years prior to George Floyd. And, you know, when the whole situation happened, it was this sense of like, okay, we need to have a town hall. We actually decided we weren't going to say anything on the town hall, just because we all blacked our screens and put names of people who have died, because it wasn't just George Floyd.
Wow.
So
That's powerful.
Wow.
we just said, we're going to do that. And when they asked if we had a comment, no one said anything. So we kind of,
you are badass. You're badass.
we were kind of,
badass.
That's powerful.
we were just kind of like, you know, we don't need to say anything else. We don't owe you guys anything. You know, we're all still feeling, you know, something and trying to figure out how we feel and are dealing with it. We had some courageous conversations, and I also had to try to give grace to the sense of like, okay, I'm annoyed that I have to be the one to constantly educate, but at the same time, there is an obligation in this moment to take advantage of what's happening, because if I don't, it is not going to play out the way we want it to. So I was being asked to review things now, all of a sudden. I was at first, you know, we weren't going to give a donation, but then someone white made a comment and then they circled back and said, we'll give a donation. It's a little weird. And we kind of just went from there.
Yeah. How about you, Stephanie? Any stories to share?
Yeah, I mean, I was definitely tapped too. So similarly, we started an anti-racism task force to sort of like tackle content, the UGC that was happening on the platform, and to, you know, have messages going out. Similarly to these ladies, I too got exhausted. And I think, again, for the first time in my probably career or life, was visibly annoyed a lot of times and verbally annoyed a lot of times of what was actually happening. I will say that Nextdoor did make strides. We do have dibs now in place. We have a lot of, we have kindness reminders on the platform now when people post. So there was a lot of good that came out of it. But I also will say, I did raise my hand at one point and said, I'm exhausted, I tap out. And I had to allow myself that, because like you guys, I felt like, no, if I don't stay in, who's gonna do it? Who are they gonna tap to do it? It's my obligation. My forefathers before me went through a hell of a lot more than me just having to join a Zoom call, so I should suck it up. But I also just felt like mentally, I can't. Pandemic, I can't. So I allowed myself to be removed, and they allowed me graciously to step out and replace me with somebody else.
Is it more so for Black women than Black men? Do you feel, because there is that things like this tend to fall on women anyway, like, oh, the women will take care of it. They're going to help nurture the culture. They're going to, you know, help make it. They'll start the resource groups, and
I read an article recently that said women in general have had to do a lot of the emotional labor of everything that's happened in COVID, both at home and at work. So at home, whether you're a parent, you're supporting your spouse, trying to work in a small space, trying to teach your kids, and then you come to work and maybe you have a staff that's leaning on you for that emotional support as well. I think sometimes people just don't put that on men or don't even ask them. And to tell you the truth, as far as Black men go, in my experience, I don't see a lot of them. So it's kind of like we're the ones that are around. Yeah.
I will say, and I know my internet messed up, so sorry about that. My co-founder was a Black man, and I did appreciate having that other side of support, because, you know, sometimes I felt like he could bulldoze down doors, sometimes a lot quicker. And I also was grateful that at least, you know, our COO of Wyden is also a Black man. So being able to lean on him as another Black woman, Black man, and just being in this position globally of power, I do know that, you know, my ERG was kind of supported in the way of like, yeah, this is wrong, because I'm living it too, you know, as the Black voice or face at a global level of this company. And, you know, how are we balancing, and how do I bring forward what it is that we need? And I did feel that support. We would have global meetings. So I do think, yes, there's far few, but when they are there, you know,
it matters.
It matters, and it shows.
All right, so we only have like a minute or two left, but I'd love to get your thoughts. Young women, Black women coming into the biz, is there any words of advice, words of wisdom that you would pass along? Maybe it's something you wish someone had said to you, or just something you've learned. Who has some tidbits they want to share?
I'll just say quickly, I think it's important to kind of hone in on a mentor for yourself early. It took me a while to feel comfortable, to find people that could really be champions for me, that I trusted and that I knew had my best interests. And not only that, like just support and really give like great advice. I think it's really hard to kind of rise through the ranks without that, because this business is so much about relationships and connection. So that's what I would say, is lock down your mentors pretty early.
I love that. Jasmine?
Yeah, I would say grow your value within your work and influence. And not the word, maybe influence isn't the right word, but I'd say maybe impact. You want to make sure that your value exchange within a company is kind of noticed. And I think that in itself will grow your confidence, right? So learn from other people and seek out strong people within a company and position yourself to be under them. I firmly believe the reason I'm at here where I'm at today is because my supervisors and my directors have been in the business for 15 years, where they were at Widen 15 years, and they were some badass women. So surround yourself with strong people.
I love that. Stephanie?
I would say try your best to not conform. And I think coming up myself, I conformed a lot. And so there's a lot that we can bring from our backgrounds and our cultures. And, forget about even the diversity of color, the diversity of thinking. I think that gets lost a lot. So if you could just be true to who you are and be strong in who you are and know that you bring value, you're going to go a long way.
Yeah, these are all great things. And I would say to someone, I do say this to people at any age, but especially starting off in the business, I say, be curious, ask a lot of questions, try and understand the why behind decisions. Don't be afraid to raise your hand and say, can someone explain this to me? Because I think curiosity will help you gain confidence, because the more you understand why things are the way they are, or what the goal is, or how decisions are being made, the more you'll be able to form an opinion about it.
Absolutely, Cheryl.
Yeah, be curious and be grateful. Be grateful. We're all very fortunate. I love this industry. I think it's a great place to be. And I'm really glad to see that we've made some progress and made it a better industry for women of color. So thank you all for joining. I know we have a lot of work to do. You can count on me as an ally in action, and I will do my best to help support you. Thank you for joining me today. This is IAB There. I am Cheryl Goldstein. Thank you, Jasmine, Patrice, and Stephanie for joining me, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.